Hey, buckle up. This one's a wild ride from our corner of the universe. Meet OP, once just a warehouse guy, now unwillingly promoted to human crash test dummy, after a spoiled rich kid's Ferrari turned his spine into scrap metal. And just when you think life couldn't hit him harder, it backed up and ran him over again. Today's story: a Florida wedding fling that turned out less music mogul and more cheap DJ with a god complex. Here's the gist. My wife slept with a wealthy guy because she was tired of being married to me. I divorced her, and he ended up taking everything from her too. Life has a way of sucker-punching you out of nowhere. I'm 44, male. My wife, Alan, is 39. We've been holding things together for 12 years. We have 2 kids, 9 and 5. We weren't rolling in money, but we had a comfortable life. I put in long hours at a warehouse, earning enough to pay for our modest house, a beat-up minivan, and the occasional pizza night. On weekends, I picked up shifts at a supermarket to help cover the bills. Alan worked part-time at a little boutique downtown so she could still be home with the kids most days. We weren't living large, but we were happy. Then, 2 years ago, everything fell apart. I was driving home from work when a luxury car came screaming down the road, lost control, and slammed right into me. My spine was wrecked. I honestly thought I'd never walk again. The doctor said I'd need multiple surgeries, metal plates, pins, the whole works. Weeks in the hospital, months of rehab, relearning how to move without feeling like I was being stabbed in the back with every step. And the medical bills, 6 figures, easily. Surgeries, medication, physical therapy. My insurance barely covered 1/3 of it. We burned through every dollar we'd saved, maxed out our credit cards. Debt collectors started calling daily, leaving messages that made my stomach turn. I was supposed to take it slow, let my body heal, but we couldn't afford for me not to work. Against my doctor's orders, I went back to the warehouse just 2 months after my last surgery. Huge mistake. Lifting boxes felt like someone was twisting a screwdriver into my spine. I lived on painkillers, gritting my teeth just to make it through the day. My recovery slowed to a crawl. By the time I got home, I could barely stand. I started telling my daughter not tonight when she'd ask for a bedtime story, and I hated myself for it. My son began acting out, probably because he could feel the tension, but I kept going because I had to. Even weekends weren't a break. I couldn't risk losing my second job. Our quality of life tanked. Before, we could treat ourselves once in a while. Burgers at the diner, a movie, even a cheap cabin rental once a year. After the accident, we cut everything. Cable, Netflix, kids' soccer league. Too expensive. No new clothes for a year. The fridge turned from fresh groceries to clearance bin survival. We stopped inviting friends over, partly because we couldn't host, partly because the house was a mess. Date nights vanished. Alan had to step up too. She went from part-time boutique work to a full-time office job. Better pay, but longer hours. And she'd rush home just to throw together dinner. I kept promising her I'd fix things. If I could land a promotion at the warehouse, she could cut back her hours. But it was a long shot, and she didn't believe me anymore. She started snapping at me, blaming me for everything. If you hadn't gone back to work so soon, maybe you wouldn't be in pain all the time. And yeah, she wasn't wrong, but what choice did I have? We were on the verge of losing the house after 4 missed mortgage payments. The fights became constant. Even little arguments would blow up into shouting matches. Then a month ago, we got an invite to one of Alan's old school friends' weddings, a lavish 3-day Florida affair. She was determined to go. The problem? I'd be left alone with the kids, and I can't physically manage them like before. My younger one still needs lifting, and my son is a ball of chaos. Babysitter. Not in the budget. I begged her to shorten the trip, maybe skip the extra parties. She refused. I deserve the break. We argued about it for weeks. Finally, she said her mom would come watch the kids. I agreed. Yesterday, I dragged myself home from work, sore, exhausted, to find the house a disaster. Toys everywhere, dishes piled up, no dinner in sight. Alan was standing there with her suitcase ready. Didn't have time to clean or make food. You're on your own. Asked where her mom was. Call her and find out, she said, then walked out. Her mom didn't answer. I cobbled together some mac and cheese, got the kids cleaned up and in bed, all while my back screamed in pain. When I called Alan, she yelled, "Can't you manage for a weekend? I've been doing this alone for years." I was too drained to argue. This morning, her mom texted saying she was out of town. She'd never agreed to help. I called Alan furious and she brushed it off. Mom said she'd try. Guess she couldn't. It's just a weekend, hang in there. I called my supermarket manager to say I couldn't work this weekend. He wasn't happy about the last-minute notice. Now she's in Florida, probably sipping cocktails, while I'm here trying to hold everything together with duct tape and willpower. I'm close to the breaking point. I'm honestly thinking about walking away from this marriage. And it's not just this one incident. It's the tipping point. She's been blaming me for everything, as if I asked to get hit by a car. I've been busting my back to pull us out of this mess, but she doesn't seem to care. Someone told me. She knew you were barely hanging on and she left anyway. You're not overreacting. You've been carrying too much for too long. It's okay to admit you can't do it alone. Date. Sorry for disappearing for a few months. Things got worse. We fought for days about her leaving me without help, but she acted like I was overreacting. I let it go. Divorce felt too expensive and I figured maybe she was just burned out. But she started coming home late, claiming she was with friends, barely spending time with the kids, brushing me off with, "You've got this." If I asked for help, she'd tell me to step up. Her whole attitude changed. Cold, distant, unbothered by my frustration or pain. Sometimes she'd just stare at me with this look that said, "What are you going to do about it?" That's when it hit me, she was cheating. I didn't want to believe it. Not after 12 years, 2 kids, and everything we'd been through. I thought we were stronger than this. But the signs were screaming at me. The late nights, the way she'd dodge my questions, how her face would light up at a text, thinking I wasn't watching. My gut knew the truth, and it was eating me alive. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I sat her down, kept my voice even, and said, "I know you're cheating. Don't make this messy. Just tell me the truth so we can end it the right way. We're not just a couple, we're parents. Let's do this properly for the kids." I expected a fight or for her to deny it. Instead, she took a deep breath and admitted everything. Turns out she'd hooked up with the best man at that wedding while I was here keeping the house together. Apparently, he was a wealthy music producer in his 60s. Her friend had married into money too and upgraded her whole lifestyle. My wife told me. I saw the change in my friend's life and thought, why not me? I'm younger, prettier than she is. When the best man showed interest, I went along. He made me feel special in ways you couldn't anymore. Every word felt like a knife, but I stayed calm. I'd started recording on my phone before the talk, just in case. Being broke meant I couldn't afford to be careless. We discussed the kids, and she agreed to joint custody without a fight. Then she dropped a bomb. She wanted the house. It's still years away from being paid off, but she claimed her boyfriend could cover it. That's when I knew she'd already left me mentally and emotionally a long time ago, and I'd been blind to it. I filed for divorce the following week. I didn't have the money or energy to fight her over the house. My lawyer said I didn't stand a chance. Her boyfriend's wealth gave her the advantage, and I couldn't afford a drawn-out court battle. Months later, I was crashing on my brother's lumpy couch, my back screaming worse than ever. I figured she'd move in with him, but no. He just spent most of his time at my old house. Imagining them in my bedroom with my kids there too was sickening. She let me see the kids whenever, but I had nowhere to bring them. I felt like a deadbeat despite trying my best. Then the kids told me she'd quit her job and was happier than she'd been with me. Watching her live it up with her sugar daddy while I was eating ramen on a couch. Brutal. I kept telling myself karma had to catch up. But some days it felt like karma didn't come for everyone. Depression was drowning me. And therapy wasn't even an option financially. People can justify cheating all they want, But marriage isn't all sunshine. It's about staying when things get ugly. Sure, she struggled after my accident, but that's no excuse to betray your vows. Guess I might not update again. You know my situation. Thanks for all the support. The way she flaunted quitting her job and playing house with her sugar daddy. In your home, while you're sleeping on a couch. That's pure disrespect. You're not a deadbeat. You're doing everything you can in a brutal situation. Day 2. Honestly, I didn't think I'd be back. After the divorce, I was in such a dark place I didn't think I could get through it. But your messages kept me going when I was ready to give up. When my ex started showing off her new lifestyle, it was hard not to sink deeper into depression. I focused on work, but the constant reminder ate at me. Every morning I woke up on my brother's couch, staring at the ceiling, feeling like a failure. My back pain got worse, way worse. Stress was eating me alive. I was taking painkillers just to make it through my warehouse shifts. Then one day, while stacking boxes, my vision blurred. And the next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital a week later, tubes everywhere. The doctors said I needed another round of spinal surgeries. I was terrified I'd done permanent damage. But here's the twist, these surgeries actually worked. They fixed something the earlier ones hadn't. Because I collapsed at work, part of the cost was covered by the company. This time I didn't rush back. I didn't play the tough guy. I lost my weekend job and didn't fight it. I followed the recovery plan exactly. Rested, did the physical therapy. Slowly, I started to feel like my old self again. Then I finally got help for my mental health. I found a low-cost clinic through a coworker and started therapy. Talking through the last 3 years, the accident, the cheating, the divorce, was like letting the air out of an overinflated tire. Things began to look brighter. I even joined a gym, starting small with walking and stretches. Work improved too. I chased that promotion I'd been after for years, and I actually got it. The raise wasn't huge, but it was enough to move out and rent a small apartment with a room for my kids. Seeing them run through that door for the first time. Worth everything. Then, 3 months ago, my ex dropped another bomb. She moved overseas with her fancy producer boyfriend, saying the kids were getting in the way of her new glamorous life. She handed them over full-time. Honestly, I was glad. I was finally in a place where I could take care of them on my own. The real miracle came last week. Remember the accident? Turns out the kid who hit me was a 16-year-old drunk, driving his dad's Ferrari. My lawyer had been fighting for 3 years to prove it wasn't my fault, and we won. The court awarded me $1.2 million in compensation for medical bills, surgeries, therapy, and pain and suffering. It's not in my account yet, but it's coming. I'm already looking at buying a home for me and my kids. I'm not completely out of the woods. Depression still lurks, and single parenting is no joke. But now I have hope. My health's improving, my kids are with me, and we finally have a real future. Maybe karma isn't a myth after all. Day 3. What's up, everyone? I didn't think life could get much better, but it has. That $1.2 million payout hit my account a couple months ago. I'm not buying yachts, but I'm closing in on a house with a big backyard for the kids. Maybe even a basketball hoop for my son. Of course, it's hard to keep things from my ex when we're co-parenting. The kids told her about the money and the house. Next thing I know, I'm getting a letter from her lawyer demanding a cut. Her reasoning: she suffered too after my accident. I took it to my lawyer, who laughed and said she had zero claim. The settlement came after the divorce, so she wasn't entitled to a penny. We sent her a formal response. She didn't take it well, sent me manipulative texts about how I owed her for holding things together. Holding it together. She was off with her rich boyfriend while I was barely surviving. I ignored her. Then a few weeks ago she moved back to town, staying with her cousin. Turns out she lost the house she took in the divorce. The boyfriend paid off the mortgage, gave her some cash and designer stuff, then took ownership. Now she's back at her old boutique job, with no fancy dinners or shopping sprees. Her sister let slip that the boyfriend was cheating with multiple younger women. When confronted, he told her, "It's business, babe. Get over it." He was never the big shot he claimed to be. just produced cheap music albums. And he'd even hit her a couple of times. She swears she left him, but I think he dumped her when he got bored. Now she's back, trying to play the devoted mom. I let her see the kids, but my focus is on my health, my kids, and the home I'm about to buy. Maybe even a treehouse for them. Karma took its sweet time, but it showed up.